Hi everyone, it's Ms. Shepherd, your counselor, and today is National Unity Day. And I thought it would be a great idea to share a book with you called The Juice Box Bully. Now, what National Unity Day is it's a day to celebrate being kind to each other, to not be a bystander. If we see something that's going on, if someone's being bullied or someone's being sad or just needs a friend, that's where we stand up, and we're not going to be a bystander. We're gonna stand up for that person, and we're going to go help them. Okay, so this is a great book. I thought that you would really enjoy this. So let's get started. Okay, The Juice Box Bully. This is by Bob Sornson and Maria Dismondy. As Pete stood in front of his new class, Mr. Peltzer announced, "Let's welcome Pete to our team. Pete, you will be sitting behind Ralph." Settling into his seat, Pete pulled his hat down over his head so that only his eyes could be seen. Turning around, Ralph warned him, "They don't allow hats in class here." "You're not my mother," snarled Pete. Does Pete sound very happy? He doesn't, does he? After giving an assignment, Mr. Peltzer walked around the class and quietly asked Pete to remove his hat. Once he walked away, Pete poked Ralph. "Thanks a lot," he growled. Later that day at recess, Pete didn't ask to join the soccer game. Instead, he watched. "Hi, Pete," Ralph said. "Do you want to get into the game?" "Not with those nerds," Pete replied. "I don't like those kids." "What do you want to do?" asked Ralph. Pete smiled spitefully. "Let's steal the ball. We're bigger than them. We can have our own game." "I don't think so," answered Ralph. "That's not how we do things around here." "Then I'll do it myself," taunted Pete. "If you're so afraid." Pete ran over to the field and yelled, "Pass it to me!" When David passed the soccer ball, Pete grabbed it and ran off the field. "What's going on?" shouted David. Pete didn't answer. He ran faster and faster, then turned and waved the ball in the air. At first, the kids just stood there. Then they huddled together before walking over to Pete. Ruby and Lucy led the way. "I know you're new around here, but what are you doing?" asked Ruby. "I'm playing with the soccer ball," Pete snapped. "Think you're going to take it away from me?" Ruby didn't argue, nor did she threaten Pete. Instead, she softly but firmly explained, "It's your first day here, so there is no way you could know this. In Mr. Peltzer's class, we made a promise." I wonder what the promise is about. "We promised to take care of ourselves, each other, and our classroom to solve problems peacefully. We promised that in this class, no one would stand by and accept bad behavior. When someone acts hurtfully, we all speak up. We want you to be a member of the class and to make the same promise." Dumb rules, dumb promises. Throwing the ball to the ground, Pete walked away. Do you think Pete's happy? Do you think he's a happy person? It seems like he's got something going on. The next day, Pete ate all alone. When he finished lunch, the kids raced out of the lunchroom while Pete trailed behind. Ruby ran up to Pete and asked, "Do you want to play soccer today?" "I don't play with nerds." "Okie dokie," Ruby replied. "Hey, Ruby," Pete called after her. Ruby stopped and turned around. "Nice shirt," Pete complimented. Then he squirted his juice box right on her. "You are so mean," she shrieked at him. "I'll tell everyone how mean you are. You won't have any friends here." By now, Ralph, David, and some others had come up to them. "Ruby, I won't let you do that," Ralph said clearly. "Remember our promise?" "I don't want to remember the promise. Look what he did. We'll ignore him forever until he leaves the school and goes back to his old school," Ruby demanded. Ruby's upset. But is she remembering her promise? Ralph walked between Ruby and Pete. "We're not going to do this, Ruby. I know you're angry. You can tell Mr. Peltzer if you want, but we're not going to let you treat Pete like this, and we won't put up with his bad behavior either." So Ralph is not being a bystander, is he? He's standing up and he's telling Ruby, we have to remember the promise that we made. And he's also telling Pete that we're just not going to stand for this type of behavior here. Ruby stomped away, leaving Pete and Ralph behind. "No one's ever done that before," Pete said. "Why did you stand up for me? I've been in your shoes, and I learned being a bully doesn't work." "And I'm not a bystander," Ralph said. "I don't stand by and let mean things happen. Besides, Ruby is my friend, and you shouldn't have ruined her shirt." "Won't the other kids be mad at you for sticking up for me?" Pete asked. "No way. They all made the same promise. We talked about it for a long time with Mr. Peltzer, and every kid here tries to keep that promise." "At my old school, I got picked on all the time," Pete said. "Everybody just let it happen. So I started to tease kids before they could be mean to me." Ah, look at that. So he wasn't treated very nice. Pete wasn't treated very nice at his other school. So he decided, I'm going to be mean to them before they can be mean to me. So that's what was going on with Pete. Ralph replied, "We decided that when somebody tries to be a bully, no one will stand by and let that happen. We speak up or we ask for help from an adult, but we won't be bystanders to bad behavior." The bell rang and it was time to go back to class. "They hate me. They'll never let me play with them," Pete said. Before Ralph could answer, David, Lucy, and Ruby came toward them. "I'm sorry about what I said," Ruby apologized. "I can't believe I forgot the reason why we made the promise. If we can remember to stand up for each other, school is a lot more fun." It's okay because sometimes we do make mistakes, right? But what we do is, remember what we talked about? We're respectful. So she was respectful and she was responsible. She went and she apologized. And so when she did that, she showed empathy towards Pete, kind of what we've been talking about. "Wow, these kids here are way different than at my other school," Pete said. "Maybe I'll give this promise thing a try." "Great, let's go talk to Mr. Peltzer," said Ruby. "Hey, Ruby, sorry about your shirt," Pete added. Ruby smiled. "No worries, I kind of like the new look." Everyone laughed as Pete and Ruby led the way into class. Bystanders are children who see bullying behavior happen but do nothing about it. Bystanders make up the largest population at schools. Experts say that bystanders have the power to reduce bullying in schools by speaking up. As adults, we can empower children to take action when they are witnessing a bullying situation. One way is to adopt and practice the promise, whereby children and adults are no longer bystanders. Adults need to encourage children to speak up about troubling situations and reassure them that they are adults who can help. We encourage you to make the same promise that the children portrayed in this book did. And this is what the promise says. I will speak up instead of acting as a bystander. I choose to participate in activities that don't involve teasing. I forgive others if they make poor choices. I model good behavior. I accept others for their differences. I include others in group situations. I will talk to an adult when there is a problem. I cannot manage on my own. I am powerful in making a difference in my school. By making the promise to stand up against bad behavior, we can put an end to bullying. So what are we going to do? We're going to stand up and we're going to make that promise of not standing by and seeing bad behavior. We're going to call people out, but we're going to do it respectfully, responsibly, and we're going to show empathy. Because everyone makes mistakes, and you don't want to be judged by the mistakes that you make every day. So when you do make a mistake, own it, apologize for it, and move on, and let's try to do better, okay? Because like I said, everyone makes mistakes. I really love this book, The Juice Box Bully, because I think that it shows that you can make mistakes. People always have things going on. If you know that when I talk to you about being kind to each other, which is what we're working on this year, I always tell you, hurt people hurt people. There's a reason why people are mean and ugly to each other, and it's because usually they're going through something and they're hurting. So like I said, we're going to show that empathy towards each other. We're going to be kind, and we're going to do it respectfully and responsibly. If you see something going on and you can't handle it yourself, then you find an adult that can help you, okay? And I'm here, I'm one of those adults that can help you, okay? So I want you to have a great day. I want you to have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.